Welcome to Speaking in Spoons with your host, Christina Brookman.
God. Hi, this is Christina Brookman, your host with Speaking in Spoons, and we are here for a very special Spoonie Sunday with co-host Lexi and Dr. Strauss to discuss the recent episode of accessibility and representation in the arts. How are you doing, guys?
Doing okay.
Good. I'm excited to this.
Okay, so first, before we get into the topic, we wanted to let you know some exciting news. All exciting Spoonie Sunday. We just found out this week that Ripple Effects, which is a graphic novel that we discussed on an earlier episode this season about a superhero with the invisible disability diabetes, has been nominated for an Eisner Award for 2003, which for those of you out there, that is like the equivalent, it's the comic industry equivalent to the Academy Awards. So this is a pretty big deal. We are very excited for them. It is much, much deserved. And we're going to have more information on our news section of our website. And I also think this is just extremely exciting because of that this is a medical graphic in that field. Like, that's just very exciting to not only, to have that coverage, and that's exciting. So I've now said that I think 10 times.
Because it is exciting. They deserve it. Like, honestly, they deserve it. It's a great. If you haven't read it yet, you need to go read it.
Like, thank you, Lexi.
Because it will really, like, it's fun. It gets you out of it, but yet, you still relate, and it takes you out of your pain if you are having it to help read. And
isn't that so important to have those escapes,
Yeah.
But also, like you said, feel that someone is hearing you. You're relating. And I love the interweaving of all the different essays from different people with different kinds of disabilities that he used throughout different parts of the story. That was just really amazing. So moving on to our topic. Our recent episode was accessibility and representation in the arts. Any thoughts from you guys? What does accessibility in the arts mean for you, to you? Like, what would make theater, I guess, is the topic right here, but or the arts in general, what would make that accessible to you?
Viewing theater, the price you guys definitely hit on. Let's see. And for me, it's hard to sit in chairs for that long. So I mean, personally, I don't think I could go out to the theater, because, like, especially, like, the times I have gone out to the theater, like, it's been to go see, like, it's in these older theaters, and the chairs aren't that great. And they're made back in, like, the 30s or something, so everything's a little too close, like in the not that the Bird is a theater place, but, like, how the seats are in the Bird Theater, where they used to be just so close and just so uncomfortable.
Then they've gotten some new ones, but
yeah, they have, but
they're cheap.
But it's just like that because I have to lay down a lot because of my back and hip issues. So like, I mean, personally, I don't think I will until the back and hip injuries get fixed, but it was very interesting to hear all the different things that I didn't even really realize, and seeing how big of a movement, especially in London and in Denver. Ben was so fun. I loved Ben. First off, I loved Ben, and it was really nice to see. I think I met one of the guy that was with
Triangle
Triangle Players. I met him once playing football outside of his house.
Oh,
So that was kind of cool to see him again after like what, 20 years. But no, that was no, it was really cool just to hear, like, I never realized that like there was this much of a movement in the theater industry, because I was in the theater so long ago, and it was just all, back in like the early 2000s, and it was a completely different game than it is now. And I'm glad that, I mean, then, it was a big thing about being, LGBTQ plus acceptable, like accepting. And
Yeah.
and now it's nice to see that they're also now going towards disabilities. And I didn't even realize that that was happening
I think
until
it's also more, and we kind of got into this when talking about some of it, but it's also where you are located in the United States. And Phil talked about this a little bit with the financial barriers in our state, that they're really, less is happening here. And it is more happening in theater for youth. That's kind of where it's being explored. Some of the sensory explorative
and I didn't know about sensory versus what's the one less, the sensory acceptable
oh,
one.
now I'm blanking.
And then they said something else. Oh God, it was.
But the point is talking
theater,
about
relaxed theater,
relaxed theater, because some people need it removed, whereas some people actually need the sensory.
Yeah, but it's like a debate between whether you want to accommodate these people or lessen the experience that you work so hard on.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad for, like, I mean, personally, I know I am the lighting designer's worst nightmare. As a connoisseur of theater. No, I'm not a connoisseur, but
yeah.
I've been in plays in high school, but I never worked behind the scenes. That kind of
same high school.
Well, I was Friedrich in the Von Trapp family.
You were? Yes. I was Princess Puffer in Edwin Drood, and I annoyed every single one of my castmates with my accent.
But I think you've hit on something, Lexi, with the comfort of the chairs, actually, because I think that is a common issue for a lot of people. Like, first of all, back pain and hip pain is a very common thing for many people, whether you're disabled or not. And a lot of chairs in theaters aren't comfortable, and they're very close together. And so I know for me, I have the opposite problem with you. I am so short, I can't reach the floor in many of these places. So I need like they'll sometimes give me a kid's step stool to put my feet on, because having them dangle for that long puts extra pressure and strain on my back. And it's so painful. And I didn't even think to do that till like a while ago. But it took
bring a step stool everywhere we go together.
Yeah. Oh my God. It just, for those of you out there that are short, holy wow. But like for Lexi, like you're so like Amazonian tall, and like, where are your legs gonna go?
They're gonna go into the back of the person in front of me, and I'm going to be their worst nightmare. My knees are going to be digging into their back the entire show. So not only will I not come out with back pain and hip pain, I will come out with knee pain.
we need to create that separation between audience members for the tall people, and then provide step stools for the really short people.
Can you just throw some mattresses on the floor for those of us that need to be lying
Oh my God, that reminds me of the Boondocks, and like, what was that, that episode of the Itis, where it's the restaurant and they're all eating in beds, and then so they can pass out after they eat. Like, can we do theater like that? Like you said, just mattresses.
I mean, I did that in high school once. We did a coffee shop, and basically what we ended up doing was bringing a bunch of pillows and mattresses in for everybody to sit on.
But I think like some of the thing that we learned in COVID is the streaming, streaming made theater so much more accessible. And I know some people in theater would argue that the whole point of theater is the live experience and the surrounded by the energy of live. But for those, but at least you're still experiencing it. Like for those of us that can't get there, which is a considerable amount of people, for many reasons, this would be a great way to expose people to those productions, those scripts, those stories. And I don't know, to me, that's the most important part. And then it would be even easier to do okay, right now I have to look away from the screen because of the lights, or, you can adjust for yourself. I don't know. So.
I think that keeps you from seeing a lot of, like, I recommend a lot of TV shows and movies to you, and you are just unable to watch because of the light thing.
Yeah. And there's people out there with seizures that have the same problems. It's not just migraines, it's seizures. And I mean, that's really dangerous.
Balance that with the craft, like, how do you, like,
well, TBI sometimes get like sensory issues too.
Yeah, it's so hard to because someone's worked on that, and then to say, okay, but you can't, because
you have to take it away.
It's just for select people, and it's just like, how do you navigate that? I thought that was a great point. Like, how do you navigate? That's like the relaxed theater seems like a better option, just because if you can, you can, you can't, you can't. And it's just like some theaters are just not wheelchair accessible, but that doesn't mean they're not disability accessible, because this is such a spectrum that just because you can't cater for some of the disabled doesn't mean you can't cater for like others.
Well, I like how you said that about disability being a spectrum. It's not one thing or another. Like
my disease
spectrum.
Every disease is a spectrum. It's not like one cookie cutter shape of this is this, and
that's where we get in trouble, is trying to define it as a cookie cutter.
Well, yeah. Also, the theater thing really appeals to me because of, you may have heard of this guy, William Shakespeare, said the world is the stage and we are merely players, exits and entering. Like, I just really feel like being disabled is like being an actor in a lot of ways, because you really put this front of how you are compared to how you actually are.
Yeah.
And I know normal people do that, but I feel like it's elevated in a sick person.
Yeah.
Because you're always
autistic people do that too, because like we have to they have to mask all the time.
Right.
And, sometimes masking is just acting.
Yeah.
Well, and like
it's very like playing a disabled person. It's just like you're playing a disabled person, but you're already playing that person in real life, and then you go and play that. It's just like layers on layers.
Which is why I liked whenever Ben said that he would prefer to have somebody that has gone through that.
Yeah, because the people that play it generally are not the sick people, so they don't know.
But I so vehemently disagree with that. I actually wanted to talk more about that because I got to think about that more. And I love that you brought that up, Lexi. And I really want to know your opinion about why you feel, well, you kind of said it, but I didn't get to word it the way I wanted to there. How many times have you said, or you heard somebody say, I am not my disability? My disability does not define me.
It does not define me, but it's a big part of who I am.
It is part of who you are.
And it's part of my limitations.
Yeah.
And like, if I wanted to be an actor, there's no fucking way. Like, because I mean, I've told you, whenever I was an actor, I used to work myself till I was sick. And like, and acting is hard. Those rehearsals are hard. Like, I don't think I could be an actor disabled now. Yeah. Because it would be too hard. I mean, physically, I don't think I could handle all the rehearsals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're disabled actors. Like, look at Michael J. Fox with his new movie, still. Like, he's still acting.
And how much accommodations do you think they had to do on the movie for that?
Probably a lot. I'm not saying you're not going to get some accommodations.
But Michael J. Fox is going to get those accommodations because he's Michael fucking J. Fox. And
true.
And I'm not going to get those accommodations because I'm working. I mean, I'm not going to get as many accommodations. I'm not saying that I'm not going to get any, but I'm saying I'm going to get some, but not to the level that it would like I would
Because those
feel so
accommodations cost
ashamed
money.
of my disease
Well,
holding up the show. That's
yeah,
where I would be.
but he
Personally.
performed for a while with his illness being hidden.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's something that's again, that's where that acting on act, like you're acting, he was pretending to be healthy while he was acting on a show, pretending to be someone. It's just like all these steps of acting when you're a disabled person acting compared to just a normal person acting.
Well, and it comes back to what you said earlier, Nate, that disability is a spectrum within in itself, because there there is disability, and then there is the disability that Lexi and I experience, and that you're getting that kind of there, Nate, is the inability to work 40 hours a week, which is federal disability of being unable to work, you know. And that there are plenty of people that have disabilities that are capable of working, you know, and
Yeah,
that, you know, that doesn't make them less disabled. It doesn't make us more disabled. It's just a different, it's a different spectrum of disability, and that makes it that. And like with Michael J. Fox, he started at one level and was able to
right.
work, and then it got to a point where he had to stop,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Well, yeah,
And then he
And
stopped for how many years, and now he's
yeah,
coming
yeah,
back.
yeah. Well, he was on that show with his Parkinson's pretty
yeah,
advanced. Like he
yeah,
worked
and but that's why he had to stop the show, because he was having, it was
hard.
just so hard for him to do.
Like
Yeah,
this year, didn't Bruce Willis like dip out of acting because of his dementia?
Aphasia, yeah, dementia and
Aphasia.
aphasia,
Is it
yeah.
aphasia or dementia? I
Both.
couldn't remember.
He has
Oh,
dementia and aphasia that go, or yeah.
I don't know the specifics, but look at like there are just some
see,
people
me and
still.
Christina could never do it because of our aphasia.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Well, and I
Okay.
talked to Marcy, and I had a great conversation actually afterwards about accommodations and things that her theater does, where they will have multiple actors for one role for this very reason. So
Mm,
that and so that you have, as an actor, you have less rehearsals on your own. But I was like, you know, I still couldn't do that
Yeah.
because of
yeah,
where I am. Like, I'm just good. Like, it would just hit. We would schedule the rehearsal. It would just hit. And then I'm paralyzed and I'm useless to you.
Yeah.
right.
Um, and, and it's like stroke paralyzed,
Yeah.
you know, like where my face isn't working. I can't talk, like I can't think, you know?
And can you just imagine like getting so excited about going out on stage right before a performance on your IDR, and then
Mm,
like that excitement causing you to have a fucking stroke?
ironic, yeah.
And
I mean, that would be what would happen to me. I'd be so excited or so nervous that I
well, and
would have no
stress
choice.
induces too,
Yeah.
and you know, stress of all that stuff adds. But I think it's incredible that those accommodations are out there for, you know, for people, and that we're getting better at doing that. We're getting better at schools having accommodations so that more disabled people that want to become actors and can become actors are able to become actors. But
Mhm.
see, that's what's important to me, is the accommodations, the accessibility, the training. And like, and I brought it up in the episode, but I blanked on her name. It was Allie, who was the first actress in a wheelchair on, you know, on Broadway in Legally Blonde. That character is not written as a character in a wheelchair. And that's
Oh,
what I think we need to be doing more. You know, we
pushing
need
for
to be like, why does it have to be that a disabled character has to be played by a disabled person? I see we should be like blind about the disability, and like, just like when you say colorblind or whatever, this character wasn't originally written to be in a wheelchair, but a
mm,
wheelchair actress got it because she was the best actress for the part. She
right.
embodied what that character was. And that's
Uh,
like the actor is a vehicle for the words, for the story. Like, to me, they don't have to have that lived experience because it's
mm,
acting. Like your job is to act, to learn, to do the research. The person that needs the lived experience is the writer. Whoever wrote those words that need to be real, if they aren't authentic because that person like is not disabled or has no connection to the disabled community in any way, like didn't have a lot, like then that's inauthentic to me. And the company should be bringing in, like they talked about, people that are in the community for the actors, directors, everybody to like have spend time and get to know and interview with and educate them. That's kind of
No, I get
that's
what you're.
where I'm at on that. Yeah, because I'd still go back to that Artie thing, like that it
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be inappropriate for him to play it now. But I'm like, some of my favorite scenes with Artie in Glee, which people probably aren't remembering or thinking about, is the dream sequences when he steps out of the chair because
yeah,
he's imagining who
He could have
he
been.
he
Right?
could have been or used to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how many of us have those dreams? Like
yeah,
that's such a universal feeling with disability to get out of these bodies. And
right,
he was able to portray that
Yeah.
because he wasn't actually paralyzed. And if you had a paralyzed actor in that role, you'd miss all those opportunities.
right. Because you couldn't. Because I've never been disabled in my dreams. Like I think that's really powerful. That
Yeah,
because he was able bodied, he
yeah.
could play that part,
And
even though
that's
it's,
such a gift to the community to give us that story that we can relate to and that other people can see and be like, oh shit, I never thought of, like you said, Nate, when you dream, you're not disabled. When I dream, I'm not disabled, or I'm running the being disabled over and over again, like I can fix it or like get out of
Mhm.
it, you know,
Like there's something like, yeah.
like
they did
yeah,
this thing with the in Doctor Strange with when what's his name? Patrick Stewart played Professor X, and in when he was mind whatever with Scarlet Witch, or yeah, with Scarlet Witch,
oh yes, yes, yes,
he was able to walk in the dream sequence, but he was wheelchair bound in as the character.
yeah,
But that's why Patrick Stewart had to play it because you know there's plenty in the comics, isn't there plenty of times where like he's in like the big, you know, he's got the little fucking helmet thingy on and the big sphere where
yeah,
he like goes in, you know which one what I'm talking about, whenever
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
in that he's like actually walking and shit,
yeah.
like,
Because
you know.
his power, like, yeah,
His power is tied to his disability, which I think is interesting too, because the more his power takes form, the less he's able to walk,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting.
But whenever he goes into that little in that little like, you know,
Base.
the
yeah.
psychic bubble, I'm gonna just start calling it the psychic bubble. When he goes into the psychic bubble, you can see him and he's like sometimes like he in the comics he's like actually walking and stuff.
But how
Like
great is
that's how he's
that's what I'm saying.
envisioning
Those
himself. It's like a
those are
dream.
stories you would miss,
Yeah.
I
you
think
know,
that's
just like the
yeah,
Artie and
you're right. You can't match the disability to the character because then you'll miss out. It's better to have the person who can play the role, including whatever sequence where you need to walk. But I think you should be consulting the person with that illness to
yeah,
really
that's what I'm
understand.
saying. I mean, can you imagine somebody with ALS actually like that's
No,
something people are more
not.
familiar with. Well,
Yeah.
what was that movie? And this is a movie, not a play, but where they were looking at the life of oh my God, I'm blanking. But
Was
it
it
goes
that?
to the
Was it
famous
that?
Please pardon our brain
scientist.
fog. The migraine today is like we're
Yeah,
having migraine brain fog. So please excuse that.
but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it?
but and there are going to be plays where, you know, the person never gets out of the chair and it's not just about like a
Yeah.
physical handicap, like there are invisible disabilities like Ben was talking about. But I
What was
really
that?
don't think it's something to me, the actor is the vehicle. The words, the script needs to be authentic. The people that are surrounding you are the helping you research, and then and Marcy, like Marcy hit it, we need to have more programs. But I mean, programs are becoming more, we are in the country because of the ADA becoming more in tune with accessibility within colleges. It
Yeah.
still needs to be worked on and fought
But I
for.
mean, you can see, like, I don't know, like, who's that deaf actress that is all those parts that she's
Oh
taking?
yeah. And
She's,
she was in Children of a Lesser God.
I don't know if those parts were meant for deaf people, but she gets these parts and she plays them as a deaf person. I think that brings some like extra depth to that character.
Some of them were like Children of a Lesser God, but then she was on West Wing, and oh no, that character, I think they adjusted. I don't know.
Hard to know whether the character was originally deaf or because she got the role, the character became deaf.
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Well, what else was controversial that you guys talked about? Like, I know the disabled person for disabled part, but I think there was other stuff that you guys talked about in that interview that was also like, it was the relaxed versus the whatever the opposite.
Sensory.
Yeah.
One, and then there was I think there was another controversy that you guys got into.
There was accessibility of cost of theater. And I didn't know about those programs. That was really good to
yeah, I was like, we need to get that in our state.
Yeah.
Because then, like, not just theater, but museums. And I know for you, and a lot of people I know, Nate and Lexi, music is so huge. And that is for me too. I have, in the past 10 years, I used to, when I lived in Chicago, I would just walk and sit and listen to live music.
Yeah.
And it soothes your soul, you know? And now I can't because of the triggering of, like, you know, certain sounds will trigger these migraines. So I like being in a live venue is very, and particularly here, they're very small, you know? And so it's just very, and the chairs and like all of these.
Or there's no chairs like at the National.
Yeah.
There's like, there's no wheelchairs you can like.
There's no seats. It's all floor.
Yeah.
There is like a ramp that goes down to the main floor, and you have like this little sitting area with like this little like standing area that's all blocked off, and you can like put your walker there and sit and watch a show, which is what I eventually am hoping to do whenever I want to go see a show, because I haven't seen a show since I haven't seen a show in over fucking 5 years. And
kind of pause in seeing shows for a while, but yeah, you could definitely do it now. It's like opening up again.
Well, honestly, I don't even think I could, because like, you know, the lights and
there's strobes, there's all kinds of
strobes. Yeah. And just one strobe is going to send me paralyzed, and then you're going to be going paralyzed in the middle of a crowd, and then, you know,
and people with seizures are just going to be set off
you,
with seizures.
Or sunglasses like Johnny Cash.
Well, I have sunglasses like that, and I'm planning on wearing those.
But the problem is, like, I will say, like, I love the idea of the relaxed, except that a lot of people don't realize when you have these light issues, you can still see it through glasses. When I close my eyes, if there's a strobe, if there's anything like that,
I can still see it through my closed eyes.
Yeah, you can still, like, I literally have to put like a person in front of, like, block it with all like a head device, like a football helmet that has like, you still see it. So someone's gonna have a seizure, we're gonna go paralyzed. Like, it is, the lighting thing really is an issue, and I don't know how to get around that.
Like my favorite band, they do once a year, they do a cave show in Tennessee, like in an old cave where they like play, and it's like just supposed to be this most magical experience. But like every time I talk to them, I'm like, is this accessible? Is this accessible for me to get to with my walker? And they never know. And, you know, and it's just, and it's like, you never know with like the venue you're going to, you know, I mean, there's just so many uncertainties that like so many uncertainties that could get you very sick, very ill, or hurt. And
Which
you
would be
don't
a
know, you
liability
can't
for the
prepare.
theater too, or the
Yeah.
venue, like the space.
Oh, true. So true. I didn't think about that.
I think in summation, there's so many barriers to going to the theater as a disabled person. There's many barriers to acting in a theater as a disabled person. And it's just like to make it there in either of those positions as the watcher or the player, I think takes so much extra effort and courage.
Yeah. Well, and
Exactly.
also look at the producers too. Like, look at the cost barriers, the staff barriers to bring on people with expertise. Like looking into all, like it is prohibitive. Like Ben is I love what he is doing, and I wish there were more companies like what him and Marcy are doing that have that focus for disabled people. But it's also, I would love to just be able to go to any theater I want, and you can't. And that would be insane to expect that too, because there is just incredibly cost prohibitive to the company. And I get that. It just makes me sad.
We need to make a date to go to one of those sensory children's theater performances,
Right.
because that's probably like the only thing we're gonna be able to like tolerate.
I have canceled on so many IDRs, and so many, like, Lexi, people have been so kind, like, hey, come to this IDR, or I have comp tickets for you. And I'm like, I get so excited. And then that day comes and I'm like, God, I would have loved if there was a disability day and I could just use that comp on another day.
Yeah.
You know? But even like,
Yeah.
but like how
Like
cool is that
tickets
things
that
like
aren't
that exist, you
that
know?
aren't like completely designed for that one day.
Yeah.
Like
Because
having more leeway for being sick because of COVID. Like people
Yeah.
are much accepting to you taking some time off if you need it.
Yeah.
Like they're
yeah,
much
but nobody ever gave a shit about any of us, or working from home, or working going to school until COVID hit. COVID
Yeah.
made all the real people realize what it's like to be disabled, and then all of a sudden society could cater to us disabled people, things we've been asking for 10, 15, 20 years, things that should have been
Hundreds of years.
accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to
Just-
school,
they were
I flunked out.
catalyst it
Sorry,
up.
I don't want to get off on a tangent.
No,
And
but
just
it's a great one.
but just because there what happened to be a catalyst that set all this off doesn't mean that we should, shoot,
It's good that it happened, but it's just frustrating for disabled people that it took a fucking global pandemic for people to realize that we needed help
but
and
it
to
always,
get things that
Makes
we
me
needed.
sad though that so many people, like, I guess it's looking at it that there's a silver lining to everything, because COVID was a global pandemic where millions, billions of people died,
Yeah.
and they gave their lives, but we have learned from it.
Yeah.
Society has learned from it. And I think
if something
that's the
doesn't
takeaway.
shake up status quo, it's just going to keep quoing. Like it's got to be like our whole country was founded on throwing tea into the fucking river. If that had never happened, people hadn't gotten so upset, we never would have had a revolution. Like
That's why you need Lexi.
You need something to kick things in the ass, because
I'm
otherwise
going to piss everyone off until we revolt.
We're gonna revolt, Lexi. Lexi is the T. She is the fuck in the Netflix. Nate is the king of positivity here, which I never thought I'd say.
I'm the queen of
How
negativity.
did you turn into that, Nate?
Nate is the king of positivity.
I don't know.
Stop it.
I'm in a good place. I don't need no scat quo changing. Quo can keep quoing. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want to do. I am good.
Best Spoonie Sunday ever.
It really is.
I think we're gonna end on that. Do you guys have any final thoughts for our followers?
I just think that it's great that they're giving voices to LGBTQ plus and disabled people, the people that are not seen, people of color, all of that. I'm just excited that, like, as a society, you know, because back whenever I was in theater, it was like, if you're not white, tall, and blonde and skinny, you have no fucking future in theater. And now it's, I just all around, like, it's just all changing, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love what Phil brought to the conversation too about just inclusion in general.
Yeah.
And that was so important.
I'm really glad we have Phil on
safety,
for
the safety thing.
and safety.
Yeah. Sorry, Nate, what were you gonna say?
Like back to what we were saying about like just that everything's not accessible, and just because you can't go to every theater like some of us want to, doesn't mean that you shouldn't go. Go to the
True.
one, and because I don't think I realized until I got so sick that musical theater and theater in general is just such a gift. Like that
Yes.
people act out their fantasy or their trauma or whatever just on stage for people to see. I think that's it's undervalued. It's undervalued in their schools, it's undervalued in arts, it's just undervalued in general. I don't think until we started having Hollywood, I don't think people cared much about, you know, actors and stuff.
I just want to say that if you are really craving to get out there and see that and you can't, don't forget about YouTube. There are so many plays on YouTube. There are so many plays, and if you have a big enough TV, you can fucking cast it on there and make it so it feels like you're at the theater.
And get involved and call and make some change.
Make them changes.
Be the tea.
Be the change you wish to see in the world. Oh God, that was too positive. No.
Too positive.
Hey, you say it.
Be the tea of change.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, and we will see you next Sunday. Stay tuned and save your spoons.
We love you. You're doing great. Keep
Lexi,
fighting.
too. If you want to contact us, please send a DM or email to speakinginspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have or would like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. And check out our website for all of our upcoming episodes and what's happening in the Speaking Spoons community at www.speakinginspoons.com. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.